we been recording?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
Silenced phones.
Always.
The movie's starting. I hate whenever people snap at people. I'm really sorry to the audience.
But yeah, no, if someone ever snapped at me, ooh, catch these hands.
If someone we knew
Mm-hmm.
were to be like, at you, you would just be like, no.
Go sit in the corner and think about what you did.
Shut your mouth. Go to corner.
I would love to see
healthy,
people's reaction to whenever I, like, burst out one day.
I'm just waiting. Over here, like. It's probably gonna be at me.
We'll see.
Dead body.
That sounds really creepy.
Imagine a serial killer coming into our house while we're just like in our closet. Like,
And we wouldn't even know.
I think that they would be more weirded out than us.
Like, what the fuck are they doing in the closet?
Okay, but now I always, like, whenever I think about, like, oh my god, that would be so funny if this happened in this scenario, then I'm like, wait, how do I prepare for this scenario so that if it ever does?
I mean, we
So,
have, like, some tools
The
here.
first things we use, we throw both of our mugs, because they're heavy. We throw both of our
Okay.
mugs at them as a
Okay.
distraction. And also, if there's liquid, they'll be like, oh my god, I don't know what to dodge because I can see liquid, but they don't know it's liquid because it's like a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
It's in the mug. And so they get all these things thrown at them.
We have to
We
aim
reach
it at
into
their
the sewing
eyes.
box. You know the fucking awls?
Oh, yeah. Those are sharp.
Stab, stab.
Oh my god, you know, like in iCarly where, like, Sam put that butter in the sock?
Fucking beat them. Well,
Girls just
I don't have a butter in here, unfortunately.
I know, but we could do something like
We
that.
put
where
your little portable charger in there.
Yeah,
and
we
our
could put
phones.
something in the sock and then just, like, sling it. And
Now I'm gonna put a brick in my closet just in case. People are gonna be like, why is there a brick in your closet to murder a serial killer? Well, we're back for an episode 3. Didn't think you'd catch us here, but
thought you'd seen The Last of Us. Did I say that last time?
thought you seen the last of us.
Hi, I am Carla,
she is Carl and I am Alyssa.
and this is Liz.
And you are watching The Gang's All
Here.
Our last episode was about, I keep on forgetting, hold on, let me get this.
You got
I keep
this.
on forgetting, there's
You got
only
this.
2 episodes to choose from. Being in a rut. Yes. Okay. Yeah, so we talked about being in a rut and kind of what that is for us. There's so much more to touch on now that we've surpassed that moment of conversation. At the end of that episode, we wanted to do the exercise where we find 3 things, or not 3 things, just a list of things that you would be proud of yourself for accomplishing in 3 years. I think it's just good to make us happy if we do accomplish it, A. B, to keep us accountable for accomplishing that, and then whatever else it means to you.
So basically, like a resolution, but for 3 years from now.
Yeah, because, I mean, a yearly resolution is really
It's
hard because
yeah.
you don't... I feel like for me, even 3 years was kind of hard. I'm like, maybe we should have done 5 whenever I was doing it, because a yearly resolution, I feel like that's so hard because you don't see yourself as changing much in a year. You're like, okay, well, I can do this and this and this.
Yeah.
But then when you look back on who you were last year, you're like, whoa, like you could have made a lot more changes. And that's why looking into 3 years, I'm like, well, I don't feel like much is going to change financially or like in terms of my job or like my friend group. I feel like everything is going to be pretty similar, at least. That's why
We're
it was
gonna
really
look back at
hard.
this.
I know.
You're like, ooh.
I know.
We were in for a ride.
Oh god, I hope not too much.
I
But
hope it changes at least in a good way.
if you're mature and can accept the bad things, then you can recognize the lesson and make it a good change, you know?
Yeah.
For this one, I wanted to be more physical. Like, what will I be proud of that is happening in my life? Like, I didn't want to be so abstract.
I don't know. I just didn't want to think too much about it. And I'm like, I know, like, if I do these things, like, I'm going to be so impressed with myself.
So what are your things?
So my 3 goals are, my first one was I want to develop my own sense of style in terms of fashion. Because I feel like for a really long time I've been very intimidated to dress the way that I actually want to dress. I'm like, no, I shouldn't wear that. And like, I have like a couple things in my closet that are just sitting there, and I'm just like, no, it's not the right time to wear that. Nope. I don't know. Especially sometimes I get kind of stuck because I'm like, oh, I don't know what looks good on me, or sometimes I think something looks good on me, and then like someone else might say something like no one compliments me or something.
Ask people, dude.
Yeah. A lot
You
of
know?
the times I just like
I'd be honest.
I'm like, oh, I know what I want to wear. Like, I'm very, like, I think of my outfit beforehand, but there are a few times where I'm just, like, super stressed, like in the movies where I'm, like, throwing the clothes everywhere, and I'm like, nope, this isn't it, no.
I have nothing to
I
wear.
have nothing to wear, and I'm just, like, freaking out in the closet, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm just gonna wear this, and then I end up wearing, like, a t-shirt and, like, jeans, and just giving up.
As it goes.
Yeah, so that's one of my goals. My second goal is that I want to be involved in like the community. I don't know, that's just something that I've always wanted to do. It's been my resolution for like the past 3 years, I think, and like be active in that community. Like I don't want to just like donate or like volunteer one time. Like I want it to be to the point where like the people know me.
I think that's a really good goal too.
Yeah, like I want to set like a good example, and I think that I'll learn a lot from those people as well. And then my third goal is to travel. With what's going on right now, who knows when I'll get to travel, but I'll be like everybody else who gets the travel bug. Even if I have to do it by myself, like I'll do solo travel. I don't care at this point. Like I just want to go. All right, so what are your goals?
So, I would like to be able to pay off my monthly payments comfortably in 3 years, including like my student loans, my rent, utilities, all that jazz. I'd like to pick up some other payments as well, and like be able to comfortably live with those payments, and like still be able to go on like a weekend trip because I'll be 25. I don't need to do anything super extravagant yet, but yeah, like I would like to not feel guilty about spending like $400 on a weekend trip.
Yeah.
Which I feel like would make a solid weekend trip. I would like to be less afraid to be myself in front of people. This is kind of like one of my more like non-tangible ones. Just because like I was telling you the other day, I'm like having so much conflict with like I used to have so much energy and be so like dancy and like not give a fuck. It was just kind of like my way of masking my like, or my way of being like, oh, the joke didn't quite land, or like something like that. Like it was my way to like release that anxiety, and I don't do that anymore, and now it's all just pent up. So
Not
it
just
was like,
anxiety.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so like it was my like little release, and I realized that now, but also I just liked that person. Like I still like me, but I'm like I liked doing the little dances and stuff. It was also just fun too. To just like do stupid shit even if other people didn't care, like for me. And then my last one would be like keeping up with the pod. I really enjoy doing this, and granted it's hard to like get started, but once we are in this, like it's fun. And I tend to not finish things and not keep up with things, so I'm hoping that I just keep up with it, even if we have like 2 listeners for 3 years. Like we're talking, we're getting closer, and then we're getting closer with 2 people.
That's nice. I'd
Yeah.
like to know other people.
Right? So yeah, those are my goals. All right, so we got to get into our intro at some point, so
Yeah.
cue that now!
We can start with like a
Communication is
story.
hard. Communication is hard. This is why we are having problems with communication.
let's be honest. We suck at communicating. And one of
Yeah.
the things that I know we both suck at, and that a lot of people suck at, is speaking up.
Well, thanks for telling me. I'm just kidding. No, I know that I suck at speaking up because it's always something that I go to you like later on and I'm like, this is what I should have said. I have so much more to say. Like,
Oh my god, like comebacks? Like when
whether
someone's
it's like
angry at you?
comebacks or like I'm like, oh, hey, I had to have this hard conversation, and instead of having the conversation, I cried. Like,
Yeah.
you know? And it's so hard. I'm learning that myself, to like have a serious conversation without crying, because it just makes me so nervous, and the nerves make me cry, which I'm sure so many people can relate to. I remember when I quit cheerleading in high school. I was like, it was halfway through the semester, like all the cheer girls, like there was a bunch of drama going on. I was my freshman year, and I was like, I'm doing this because my sister did it, and seemed fun, and then I was just like not having fun, and there was so much drama. I wasn't involved in the drama, but I was just like, this is making it less fun because time is being taken out of it and blah, blah, blah. And then we had this big old cheer circle, and one of the captains, it was without the coach, and one of the captains is like, if anyone wants to quit, quit right now. And, like, I wasn't about to be like... you know?
Yeah,
and
but
so,
in your head, you're like, yeah.
yeah. And then so I remember, like, the week after talking to, her name was Miss DiMartino, who was, like, a sub-coach because Miss, what's-her-face, Resnick? Miss Resnick left. So I went to Miss DiMartino, and she's the best. She told us this story about a guy she dated with a foot fetish. And, well, she went on a date with, I should say. And she's like, yeah, we went, she would always like, I feel like she always has a dog in her hand in my head. But her dog was actually a really big yellow lab that she would just bring on our weekend practices.
But she has, like, a spiritual tiny dog with her at all times.
Yes. Yes. And she told us about this story, and this guy, she's like, yeah, so I walk out of the bathroom, and she's like 55 at this point. Note that. And she's like, I walk out of the bathroom, and he's holding my high-heeled sandal in his hand, and he's sniffing it. And he goes to me, you don't know what this does for me. And then she's like, get out.
I'm glad that she knows how to speak.
Yes. Yeah, that's a good point. She totally did. And
She said, get the fuck out.
And that's a story that I will never forget. But she was our cheer coach, and I went to her, sweetest lady, and I was like, Miss DiMartino, I'm not enjoying cheer. It's not my passion. Like, I really hate to quit things. And then at that point, I, like, started crying because failure is hard for me. And for me, quitting is like failing. Well, not really. Not anymore. At that moment, I learned that it wasn't, I think. Yeah. But at that point, I was like, I can't quit something. Like, after that, I quit many things. But I just realized, like, they're not for me. And I was just like, I feel so bad for quitting halfway through the year, but this and that, and da-da-da. And she's like, honey, this is okay. Like, blah, blah, blah. And she was just so, like, nice about it. And I'm like, but I was still crying because I was so nervous to quit, especially after that, like, conversation with the captain. Granted, we were all just, like, sitting in a chair circle. The drama was a lot, and it was just, like, there were so many freshmen that wanted to do cheer that year. It was so big of a freshman team, and not that that was a factor, because freshmen are very immature. We're moving from, like, middle school to high school, and in high school, people have sex.
First time I'm hearing of this.
I'm just saying, like, the maturity level is a lot higher. You cuss. I didn't, but...
People drank.
Fun fact.
Alyssa didn't know how to cuss until she was, like, 19.
You can't say I didn't know how to. I just didn't. Because I would replace cuss words with my cuss words.
Like fudge or darn.
Okay, my replace words were not like that. They were, like, Old English. Like,
I can't take
you stupid wench.
Oh, you would use heathen, too. That was a good one.
You heathen! How could you not pick up a 5, 6, 7, 8? That was my first story where I remembered speaking up for myself.
But you found your own way to, like, do it. Like,
crying.
I mean, obviously, like, when you were in that circle with everyone else, like, you didn't feel comfortable because there was a lot of people watching.
But see, now I'm like, I wish I just fucking stood up and was like a bad bitch and was like, yeah, you know what? There's too much drama. I'm not enjoying this. Peace out. And, like, been like, Mom, come pick me up. I just quit cheer. But that would have been, like, so badass. But you learn.
You didn't know. You didn't know. You weren't badass back then. Neither was I. But, you know, we grow into our badassery.
Yeah. And I'm still growing into it because I can't say that I am right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right.
I feel like, okay, the one that I can remember right now when I was in theater, I had this friend in high school, senior year, that was an assistant director to a play. And I was, at the time, the president of the drama club. So I thought I was hot shit, right? Mm-hmm. I thought I ran the place.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, she did. Anyway. So there was one time where we were at rehearsals for this play. And there was these other two girls there. One of them was the stage manager. And the other one was, like, the makeup girl. I don't know. And both of them...
That was right.
And both of them, like all three of them, the director, the stage manager, and this makeup girl, were all friends. But the entire time at rehearsal, they would just, like, fuck around, laugh, giggle, make fun of the actors on stage. Like,
Which is why it was the worst play.
yeah, like, they just weren't taking their job seriously. The only person that would take it seriously was the director, because obviously, like, he actually tried at times. And so I got a lot of complaints from the fellow actors that were in this play saying, like, yo, like, we've been on this scene for forever. Like, can we move along? Like, this is taking too long. And me and my high horse, I was like, well, I'm the president, so I'm going to say something. And so I went over to the assistant director and I called him over and I was like, hey, like, we need to talk. Like, I need to speak to you real quick. And I was like, listen, like, I don't really appreciate that you're fucking around this entire time. You need to take this more seriously. Like, you're wasting people's time. Like, I could be at home right now, like, eating some bomb food my mom made. But instead, I'm here until, like, 9 p.m. at school, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I was just like, I had just fucking had it at that point. Because this has been going on for weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And he snapped back at me. And I don't remember exactly what he said because I wasn't expecting that reaction from him. I thought he was going to take it
Like,
well.
respect it, yeah.
Yeah, I thought he was going to respect what
I
I
would
was
think
saying.
the same thing from that person.
And he reacted unexpectedly and he was just like, I don't appreciate what you just said. Like, I'm not, like, listening to this right now. Like, I'm going to do what I want. And then he just stormed off. And
okay. Oh, high school.
he had, like,
I just can't imagine, like, I crave and I love whenever people do shit like that because I'm just like, this is really happening. But then I, like, look back at it, I'm like, that really fucking happened.
Yeah. And it took me by surprise. His reaction took me by surprise because this is my friend. And I just remember sitting there just being, like, in complete shock. And I just sat there, like, in the auditorium, like, in one of the audience seats, just sitting there like, what the fuck just happened?
Well,
And
did anything good come from it?
not really. They still kept fucking around. I
Well,
mean,
that's not a good lesson about speaking up.
but that's what I'm saying is, like, it depends on who you're talking to. Like, the thing is that speaking up is going to be unpredictable. Like, you're not always going to get the reaction that you want.
Yeah.
But it still felt good that I said something.
You got it off your chest. Also, it probably just felt good that everyone else that had talked to you about the issue, like, got their voice heard.
Yeah, like, at least people, like, the people in the theater got to know that, like, I did something. And, like, they weren't letting me, like, oh, well, there's that president that doesn't do shit. I'm like, well, I said what I needed to say, and, like, now it's out of my hands, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, speaking up to your parents is really hard.
It's harder, but I'm getting better at it, and I think my parents are kind of, like, getting, not concerned, but, like, they're also, like, kind of like, oh, you know?
Getting
Like,
a little impressed.
like, not even impressed, like, kind of like, oh, so you think you're a big girl now? Like, kind of like that.
Like, yes, I am.
Yeah. But yeah, I've told my mom things. I've told my dad things.
My parents, where I'm, like, they'll ask me, like, oh, are you in a relationship? Like, how's your love life? And I'm just like, I don't have one, and that's okay. Like, I don't need one. I don't, like, and that's a lot of the times, and, like, this sucks, but my parents will ask me, like, oh, like, where's your boyfriend or something, before they'll even ask me, like, how I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me,
That's
sucks.
bothersome, yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm like, oh, so you care more about who I'm with than, like, how
Who I am?
Than who I am, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'll speak about it and, like...
Do they know that you don't care?
Yeah, because I've spoken up about it. I'm like, that's not important to me. Like, I'm focused on my life and what I want to do first. And then, you know, if somebody comes along, then great. Being in a relationship is not a priority to me, and that's where I've had to speak up to my parents and let them know, like, hey, times are different. You know, like, like, in Spanish, there's, like, this saying, there's, like, oh, se te va el tren, which means, like, your train is leaving. Like, you have to go after your train.
Did they tell you that?
Yeah. And they're like, your train
You're
is...
like, my train is my goal, and a man is not one of them.
Yeah, like, maybe a man is on the train. But, yeah, I've had to speak up to my parents in a lot of different ways. Like, usually, one thing that I think I've told you before, too, is that a lot of the times when my parents would get mad at me, they would never tell me why. They'd be like, go to your room, go do this, go do that, or like shut up or something like that. But they would never tell me why, and I would always be like, why?
Wait, really?
Yeah.
I always knew I was being sent to my room because it was like
No.
I did something bad.
Like I would think like, okay, I think I did something bad, right? But then I would
But you didn't know what it was?
But I didn't know what I was, and then I think as like a little kid, I spoke up and I'd be like, why? Why am I going to my room? Like, why am I being grounded? Why am I being yelled at? Like, why? And
Did they tell you?
No, they would get even more mad at
That's
me.
interesting. Yeah, I've never not been told why. Like, most of the times I just knew, and I'm like, okay, I watched TV before doing my homework. Sorry. But I knew that it was clear to me in my brain that was not allowed, and I still did it, and so then I knew, like, even though it was so stupid, I knew that was why.
Yeah, I never knew what it was. I would be like, why though? And then my mom would be like, why are you talking back? Or like, why are you questioning it? Just listen
Because
to
you're
me.
not telling me why.
Exactly. And so a lot of the times now looking back at it, I'm like, I would get in trouble for no reason. Like my parents would just be like in a bad mood and they would take their anger out on me and send me to my room for no reason just because they didn't want to deal with me. So yeah, those are like the little moments that I remember as a kid speaking up, being like, okay, why am I being grounded? Why am I being sent to my room? Okay, I was really proud of myself for this one. So this was, I had a stranger follow me one time. So I was at the grocery store. And
You're probably in LA, huh?
Yup. This was like not that long ago, a few months ago.
Wait, like in this house?
Yeah.
Why didn't you
tell
tell us about this?
It was the guy that tried to steal my eggs.
No!
Okay, so...
Well, now you're telling me about this.
Okay. So this one time, I went to the grocery store. So I got out of work at like, I don't know, 6 p.m. or something. And so I was like, fuck, like I need eggs. I don't have eggs for breakfast. I need to go get some eggs. I literally just went to the store for eggs. And so I took the bus, because like the bus that I take to go home also drops me off by the grocery store. So I like, okay, whatever, go to the grocery store, I get my eggs, and then I go stand at the bus stop waiting for the bus, like everybody else. And at the bus stop, there's this man, and he just keeps like looking at me. And you know when you feel someone staring at you?
Yes.
And it just like, it feels weird. And so this guy's like hella staring at me. And he comes over to me, like, he gets closer, and he's like, hola, mami, and, like, trying to get my attention, and I'm just...
like, no habla español.
And I have my headphones in. I always have my headphones in, so I'm like, whatever.
That's not good. Dude, like, no, like, creepers approach people with headphones in, and, like, I learned it was, like, what? It was, like, hair up in a, like, well, I'm talking about, like, killers and, like, rapists and kidnappers. They go up to people with headphones in, or like distracted by their phones, or like distracted by something. People with like hair in a ponytail, bun, something that's easily grabbed, and then what was it? Something. Oh, people with long hair.
Yep, that's me.
Well, I click all of those things.
Yes.
So this guy comes
like
up.
at all times. Have one headphone in for me, please.
Well, I'll get to that because I did do that later. So I had both of my headphones in, and I'm like, whatever, I'm just gonna ignore it. Like this happens to me all the time, like, whatever. So I get on the bus, and I realize, because this bus stop is for multiple buses, not just one. So I realized that he kind of, like, waited to see what bus I got on, and then got on the same bus that I did. And that was very suspicious, because I'm like, I doubt that was the bus that he was waiting for. So I'm like, I sit like in the front, he sits kind of like close to me, and I'm like, ugh, this is so annoying, like, here we go. And so I get off on my bus stop, and he gets off on the same bus stop as me. And I'm like, it's not a popular bus stop. I'm literally the only one that gets off on that one. Like, it's
and
not...
I'm thinking you went to Vaughn's.
I actually went to Superior Grocers.
She fancy.
It's like not that superior, to be honest. So he gets off on the same stop as I do. And at this point, he's following me, like, straight up. Like, I just know he is. And so I take off one of my headphones because I want to hear him, like, to see if he's, like, running at me or something like that. Like, I want to... And, like, I even turn my music off, but I still have one of them on just as he thinks that I'm listening to something.
Yes, he thinks you're distracted.
Yeah, and so he's, like, walking behind me. And he has, like, a set of keys so I can hear them jingle behind me.
Oh, that's good.
So I'm like, okay, he's clearly walking right behind me. And I'm like, fuck, I need to do something something before he, like, attacks me or something, because I'm thinking, like, the worst case scenario at this point. And so I turn around, and I'm like, can I help you? Like, why are you following me? Can you please keep your distance? Because he's walking right behind me. He's not even, like, being cool about it. And, okay, so this guy...
It's turned into a true crime podcast.
He wasn't even... he wasn't even talking to me. Because I think he was mentally ill, as most of them are.
Or on drugs.
Okay, he was either mentally ill or on drugs, because he wasn't, like, forming full sentences. So he's mumbling at me, and I don't know what he wants. And then he goes in. I'm carrying my eggs, by the way. I'm literally, like, a block away from home. I'm, like, on the corner. And this guy's following me, and then he goes in, like, he knows that I'm not paying attention to him, and that I'm raising my voice at him. He goes to grab my eggs, and we're literally, like, fighting, like, tug-of-war with these eggs.
Dude, I have not heard this story.
I could have sworn I told you this. And we're, like, fighting with these eggs, and I was like, fuck no. Fuck no. I was so angry at this point. I was like, we're not doing this right now. I'm like,
this is not happening to me. Like...
Exactly. I was like, I'm fucking tired. I've had a really long day. Like, I do not have, like, the mental capacity to deal with this right now. So I was like, I literally just kept saying, like, fuck you, over and over again until he let go of my eggs. And then I was like, leave, like, get the fuck out of my face. And then he got, like, kind of weirded out. He left.
He got weirded out. Good.
But I was just like, at that point, like, old Carla would have been like, no, please, leave me alone. But
he stole my eggs.
Yeah, exactly. But
wait. What if the whole time he was literally just following you for your eggs?
Oh my god. That would have been funny. But yeah, I don't know.
Probably use that as, like, an excuse. But anyways.
But yeah, I don't know. I was just
and
like...
he walked away?
Yeah, and then
Did you wait till he walked away till you walked away?
Yeah, so I waited a little bit because I wanted to make sure that he wouldn't continue following me.
Yeah.
So I was, like, gonna go the wrong direction and see if he would still follow me. And then at that moment, I'm like, okay, if he's still following me after this one block, like, I'll call, like, one of my roommates or whatever, and then we'll figure it out. But he didn't. He, like, walked the opposite direction. So I was like, oh, okay, whatever. Like, just imagine having, like, a long-ass day at work and just, like, I just need my fucking eggs. And then someone trying to take your eggs, and I'm like,
So that's, like, see, we're talking about all aspects of speaking up, which is really good, because I'm like, that's, like, a necessity right there. Like, because I'm always afraid, and, like, I'm like, okay, I think this is what I would do in this situation, but I'm like, I'm always afraid that I'd be frozen in fear. And that's a good memory to, like, know that you will kind of, like, fight back. Yeah. In a way.
But I've also had a lot of moments where I have frozen up. But that day, I think because I was just so fed up with, like, my day, like, I'd had such a bad day where I was like, like, I don't fucking need this right now.
I always want to think that I will use my feet and just, like, kick them, because I don't think they're expecting that. I think they're expecting people to be like, no! But I'm like, I'm gonna use my feet, because, like, you know, use your feet. Use your feet!
Yeah,
kick them in the balls. Or the vagina. That's a good one.
Yeah, I forgot about that one.
I'm glad this is the first time for all of us hearing this.
Don't fuck with me and my eggs.
I think, like, the most important one for me, which I think I've touched on before, like, I asked for a raise. And for me, it's really hard because I don't know, there's so many factors in my brain going on. The only reason I did ask for a raise was because I, like, told my mom, I was like, you know, I feel like I'm deserving of a raise. And I told her the reasons, and she's like, if you don't ask for a raise, like, I will be mad at you. She's like, by this week, you better have asked for that raise. And my mom is not like that at all. She's like, honey, whatever you decide is best, like, you know. And my mom was, that's not, like, hyperbole. Like, she was saying that to me through the phone, and I had to be like, okay, mom. Like, okay. Like, I've never had to do that with my mom. She's always like, whatever you think. She's like, I think what you want is best, and this and that. Like, but she's like, if you don't do this, like, this is a part of adulting, and you need to get over it. You need to, like, basically, you need to suck it up build a bridge and get over it, like, is what she was telling me. And I was just like, oh God. And so that was like literally the only reason I did it. And other people were asking me, or not asking me, but telling me like I should do it too. And I'm like, I was just like confused because I'm like, am I deserving of it? Do I do this? But I'm like, at the point I was like, yeah, I guess I am. And then so like I had, my boss was just like doing something, and I walked up to her and gave her like a shipping form or something, and I was like, hey, I also wanted to talk to you about something, if we can. And she's like, okay, yeah, what? And I was like, I didn't want to be like, privately, you know, like, I just didn't want to do that. So I was like, I just said it right then and there, like, in the hallway. No one was walking past at this point, so I, like, lucky me. But like, I was like, well, you know, I was actually hoping like to talk about a raise. And she was like, what? And then that, like, I was like all confident and stuff before that, and then that is what triggered, like, the what was like what triggered me. And I was like, well, you know, like, I started like digressing, although like, yeah, whatever, but I still like kind of express what I want. I was like, well, you know, it's just like a discussion, like, I just wanted to see if it was possible and how I could go about asking for one, like. And then so I'm waiting for a couple months just kind of for that to like I thought that we would have that discussion at some point. We never had to, but I'm really glad that I spoke up to myself, because it ended up getting to the lowest point that I wanted in my raise, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, that meets what I wanted. And I'm really glad that I spoke up for myself, because if I didn't, I think that they would have just done like the company average, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you met your goals. It was funny because we had the meeting after, and I felt the need to like express my points at that point, because I was like, I felt guilty in a way. I was like, oh wow, like, you don't even know why I'm deserving of this. Let me tell you why I'm deserving of this. So that was what was important to me.
I think it's really important to be aware of how we feel in situations, because you have to kind of honor your own emotions. Because if you feel uncomfortable in a situation, you should pay attention to that and write that down and be like, okay, this makes me feel uncomfortable or angry or sad, and then that'll help you like speak up.
Yeah,
essentially.
and be cognitive of the emotions that are like tugging your, like, for me it literally kind of feels like a chest tug internally. Like, be cognitive of the things that are tugging your chest, like, no, do this. It may be hard to do, but like, do it.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of like that thing that people say at weddings where they're like, speak up or forever hold your peace.
For real, though, because, like, forever, you have to hold your peace if it's too late. And that's a problem that I have that I probably could have discussed further on. But, like, for me, and I feel like it's really only a problem, like, in relationships, like, romantically, is that I don't express issues that I have or, like, something that I would like to work on until it's too late to talk about it. And then I'm like, it's too late. And I understand that a lot of people don't think that there's a too late time. Personally, in this moment in my life, it might change. I think that there is a moment where it's like too late. Like, the time has passed. We've talked about, maybe not have talked about it, but the situation that relates to that thing has passed. Yeah. I can't talk about it right now until it happens again, A, or B, I just have to let it slide and let it go.
Yeah, and then that comes back to the fact that, like, I know I'm very passive, where, like, a lot of little things, especially little things, happen in my life with, like, my roommates, my family, my friends, where I'm like, I'm not very comfortable with that, but I won't say anything because it's like, it's not a big deal. Why am I gonna...
Well, you should if it makes you feel uncomfortable. Uncomfortable is, I think, a big deal. Maybe, like, irritated isn't as big of a deal for me as uncomfortable, but I'm like, if it makes you feel uncomfortable and if it's me, please tell me. Jeez.
Yeah, but it's always like, for example, I absolutely despise being called Carlita. Like, whenever people call me that, I'm like, ooh, it just like really grinds my gears. Like, it's really bad. I don't know, I just think it's very demeaning. And I don't like that. It's like
little.
Yeah, like, it's belittling me.
But it's literally, like, Ita, isn't that, like, little?
Yeah, it's supposed to be, like, a lot...
or, like, cute, or, like,
exactly, and that's why I haven't spoken up on it, because I was like, whatever, it's not a big deal. But now, looking back at it, I'm like, I should have said something, you know? But yeah, those are, like, the little moments where you should speak up, because if it makes you uncomfortable, you should say something. being assertive and honoring your emotions is not starting an argument.
Any conflict that happens is not necessarily bad. You're not starting conflict because you disagree. Disagreement is not an argument.
Exactly. So for our activity for next week's episode, we'll be asking ourselves and looking within and saying, hey, like what is causing our fear of speaking up? Whatever that may be for you. Like what would you say is your fear of speaking up?
Like, generally, because next week we're going to talk specifically, but like, generally, fear of speaking up. Let me think. For me, I think it's stemmed from like thinking that someone is above me, like not relating a relationship to that person that I'm talking to as another human, rather than being like, oh, like, just for example, like, oh, it's Carla's dad. It's not like another human. It's kind of like that mentality, I think, for me. But I'll think more about it because this one's a little bit hard for me because I'm like, I don't really know.
Yeah, you really have to like really think about it. But for me, generally as well, is just like avoiding responsibility. So I always think, I don't know, I just like, oh, if I don't talk about it, it's not there. Or if I don't talk about it, like, it's not a problem. So I kind of just avoid it. So we'll speak about more about that in the next episode.
Oh, for sure.
But hey, whoever's here, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to
The gang's all here.
Thank you for being in the gang. Thank you for hearing our weird stories. And
tune in next week because this one felt really good. And
this
next week's gonna be
I felt this one
better.
We're so excited about our future episodes, so please stick around.
Like, we're figuring this out as you guys are figuring us out. So like, we're gonna get better and better.
I'm excited. Yeah.
Me too. But yes, thank you. You're probably watching on YouTube because we haven't figured out other podcasting platforms yet. So, hi YouTube. Thank you guys so much. I really, honestly, like, to the people that I'm watching and to the people that I've found out I've watched the first episode, I'm like, really, thank you.
Hard eyes to y'all.
For real though. And I appreciate it if you're still here.
All right.
Peace out, bros.
See you next week.
Trick or treat, bitch.